Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar. I'm Joe Doherty, Vice President of Sales and Business Development at outboundIQ, and I'm happy to be today's moderator for Mastering Inbound Calls, the biggest opportunity in outbound today. We'd like to welcome all of our attendees from around the world, particularly in the UK, across Europe and the Middle East, Canada, and LATAM. We're proud to support our customers in these regions. Now, before we begin, please stay tuned until the end for a live Q&A session where we'll answer all of your questions. During the session, you can use the Q&A button at the top of the screen to submit any questions that you have. Now, please welcome today's speakers. Jason?
You're muted, Jay.
Hi, my name is Jason Shatzkamer. I'm the CEO and co-founder of outboundIQ. We work with a lot of different companies doing outbound in a major way, and our goal is to always try to increase the amount of success that our customers are finding. This is one of the areas that we certainly see a huge opportunity.
Awesome. Alex?
Hi guys, my name is Alex McConville, CEO and co-founder of ALP Performance. We're a contact center consultancy specializing in outbound dialer management, revenue generation, and optimizing customers' contact centers, whether that be in the States or whether that be in Europe. We work with contact centers. All of our team are ex-contact center managers. We understand the technology, but we've also been there, done it from an operational level. And the more complex that technology is getting these days and the more things that you can change, we sit with our customers and just navigate that for them and make sure that they are optimized and sharing best practices. So yeah, that's us and what I do.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. So before we get into the discussion, we'd like to kick it today off with a quick poll. Hila, if you please. I would like you to give this some thought. Which of these outcomes would you value most from a callback? Would it be a booked appointment? Maybe it's a closed sale. Perhaps it's complaint resolution or brand trust recovery. Just give that a thought for a second. The fact is that they all matter. And there may be others out there that you're thinking of as well. But the key is they're all at risk without a callback strategy, which begs the question, Jason, why is a company that's focused on lifting outbound rates talking about inbound callbacks?
Because when you look at your contact rate, it's impossible to separate somebody calling you back from the effectiveness of your outbound campaign. If you call somebody and they're hypothetically on a toilet, right? They're not going to answer your call. But if they call you back 5 minutes later, that is a direct result of your outbound dial. So to differentiate between the two, to me, is just doesn't make sense. All right.
I mean, it is actually.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
just let me jump in there as well. Yeah, I think so. We're calling them inbound callbacks because they technically are, but these aren't inbound calls, right? These are a delayed outbound connect. Just they're on the toilet. They didn't pick up. They are curious, so they call back and they want to know why that number is called. These are outbound. If we think about them as an inbound customer it's made some time and I'm calling it, I'm going to wait on an IVR, I'm going to speak to a customer service agent or whatever. These are not inbound callbacks. I think that's the industry. We're bucketing them wrong, and me and Jason will talk about how to bucket them better. But yeah, they're just outbound delayed calls.
Yeah, and they are, right? I mean, again, and it's important here to distinguish clearly that we're not talking about all inbound. Okay? There are consumer-initiated inbounds that are coming from different places. There are inbound transfers that are coming from different places. Those are all their own universe and their own strategy. What we are talking about specifically here are inbound callbacks that are returned from your former outbound dials. All right, so from where we sit, these inbound callbacks are the fruits of those outbound dials. All right, these inbound callbacks are a 100% contact rate campaign. They do not happen without a human on the other end initiating that call. They are the same people that you were trying to reach 5 minutes ago, and now they are reaching out to you, right? So from where we sit, it doesn't matter if you're getting the conversion on your outbound dial or the inbound callback. This is all success of your outbound campaign. And to cut off that half from where we sit, it's almost like breathing without exhaling. You've got your inhales and you've got your exhales. Both of them form your breath. Similarly, you have outbound calls and inbound callbacks. Both of them form your contact rate.
Well, I think that's a great point, Jason. Without the callbacks and a strategy then to capture them and service them, much of your outbound effort is meaningless, right? You're treating them in two different worlds. They're kind of existing in two different universes when they're instead part of the same continuum, right?
Well, inbound is typically in a substantial outbound center. What we find is that the inbound callbacks are at best an afterthought, and at worst, no thought, because we're so focused that way. We're so focused on outbound and what's happening when I make my outbound dials that sometimes we don't even hear them trying to call back in.
I've seen we've seen customers that don't have any inbound campaigns associated to their return calls at the worst. So they're not going anywhere. Even not as bad, but they route them through to their inbound customer service team, or they route them through to a complex IVR. And all this customer wants to do is, I want to know why this number has called me, so I'm calling back. Get them through to an agent, the right agent that called them in the first place, not the wrong department.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into, Joe, the size of what we're talking about here, and I've got a couple of visuals if we want to.
Well, let's do that then. Let's talk about the potential size of these missed opportunities. What's at stake?
So I want to give you guys a real life visual of one of our customers who said it was okay for us to give this visual. And what I'm going to show you here is over the course of the month to date, this customer is a 1.5 million dial customer, so they're not small by any stretch of the imagination. And if we sort by successes, whatever successes means to them or whatever successes means to you, whether it's a mortgage, a vote, an insurance policy, a confirmation, maybe a blood donation, a sale, a lead, who knows? Whatever your success happens to be, it's the reason that you're doing what you're doing. And when you look at the month sorted by contribution to those overall successes, you're going to see their inbound callbacks campaign at the number 2 spot on their board. Number 2, out of all the outbound campaigns that are running, this is the number 2 contributor. And this is an incredible measurement of health. This is an incredible measurement that you're calling correctly, that your numbers are clean, right? Because nobody's calling back numbers that show up as scam likely or spam likely. You don't get callbacks to those numbers in mass. You get callbacks to clean numbers in mass. If you're calling branded, you have a very clear way of measuring. Is it the branded calls that's generating those inbound callbacks, or is it the unbranded calls that are generating the inbound callbacks? By knowing that across your consumer base, you know which of your consumers is avoiding your brand. So there's a lot going on in your inbound callbacks, and all of it starts with understanding that it's there and then opening your mind towards how do I capitalize on it. So the question of the size of it, massive, just as big as your outbound effort in its own way.
It's not only that, it's the the amount of, if you're not answering the inbound callbacks. So I've made 5 attempts to a customer. They didn't answer on all 5 attempts. And then 3 minutes after my 5th attempt of not answering, they call back in. I don't route that through to an agent. If I don't get that customer serviced, then they hang up, and then I try another 10 or 15 attempts over the next however many days.
I can show you that too, if you want. Check this out.
How many wasted dials? How many wasted attempts?
Yeah.
How much wasted agent time?
Man, that we were talking about this earlier, and we actually had an example pulled up. So here's a case where a record comes in July, and we start calling this record several times a day, and then a little bit less, and then a little bit less, and it's working its way through our cadence. Now, at some point, 3 days into dialing, this customer called back. The customer we had been trying to reach several times called back. And what you'll notice is that there was a hang up disposition by the agent, which, okay, that happens. That was on 7/28. The next dial didn't happen until 7/29. Why? Because that was the next scheduled outbound dial. So understand what's happening here. We're trying to reach somebody. That same exact person we were trying to reach just called us back, and the outbound cadence, the rest of the dialer benefited. It's a signal. There's a signal, right, that just came in, a data point that just came in that said this person that you're trying to reach, not only are they there on the other end, not only did they call you back, but they called you back now, which means they're not in a meeting. They're not on a plane. They're available. And we get these signals that come in via our inbound callbacks campaign that our outbound dialer summarily ignores or doesn't even know happened. It just continues forward as if no additional information was known. But there is additional information that was known. Specifically, that's the person, that's the time, that's the number to call them from. You should be following up on that instantaneously as part of your consumer journey. If you're not listening for the inbound callbacks, if you're not optimized in your inbound callbacks, if you don't have all of this logic in your inbound callbacks, you're missing opportunities and you're missing signals. So instead of recognizing that they're here now, let's go get them, we ignore it and then proceed to continue the chase at a later date. I think we can all take a look at that from 30,000 feet and be like, yeah, we can do better.
The way that we treat new leads, a new lead hits our lead funnel, it's our CRM, and we talk in seconds. The graph from lead opt-in time to success drops dramatically after the first 60 seconds, first hour, first day. So most people in the industry know that if I get a new lead, I need to attempt that lead as quickly as I can and get that person on the phone. We've just had a sign of life come back on inbound. We need to treat that exactly the same as when that person submitted that first lead, because all that is that person was doing something related to your product or your opt-in journey at that time, and then they just tried to call you back. We should be treating that inbound callback and resetting how we approach that lead and talk about it in a matter of seconds, not call it back the next day.
And on top of that, you can even further refine that, because the person either called back on a branded number or an unbranded number. If they called back on a branded number, not only are they telling you that they're available and they're available now, they're telling you there's at least some interest in your product. This is the thing we look for in our databases. This is the thing we hunt for in our dialer, and it's flashing at you, right? It's flashing at you. Now, here's the other beauty of it. When you're making outbound dials in your outbound campaigns, all of the measuring, all of the planning happens ahead of the dial, right? Once that dial's out there, you either have all the intelligence you need at your fingertips or you don't. When an inbound call comes in, typically, whatever your platform happens to be, it goes into an IVR. In your IVR, you have, after that call arrives, in the mere seconds between the call arriving and being handed off to a process. You have the ability to do all kinds of cool stuff that you can't do on outbound. You have the ability to query CRMs. You have the ability to look at call history. You have the ability to understand that this person, we tried to call them 3 minutes ago versus another caller where we tried to call them 2 days ago. We have a caller that we've tried to contact once. We have a caller that has had more than 10 dials. Should we be doing the same thing on the inbound side with each? We know who the last agent they spoke to and can try to route it there. We know a myriad of things by looking at the campaign that called them last. We can start to understand why they were called. Maybe they were called for confirmations. So do I have to answer the phone? Thank you for calling. But no, thank you for calling confirmations. We see that you were calling to, we were calling to confirm your appointment. Hold on, we're going to connect you with a confirmer. It doesn't have to be the same message for everybody. This is what we're talking about when we say optimizing the IVR. All right. Even more, these inbound calls, if we look at them specifically, there's 2 kinds of inbound calls that come into outbound centers. There are the ones that, as we talked about, are the people calling you back, which is good. And then there's the noise. And what I mean by the noise is spam calls. And I know that's ironic, sitting here on the phone as we are today, but yes, when you provision phone numbers for your contact center, you are a business and you are provisioning business phone numbers. When you provision phone numbers to a business, other businesses start calling those phone numbers. So this is one of the things about our one of the things about our telephone network today is that if you bought 50 phone numbers, brand new phone numbers, and put them into your dialer and open them up on an inbound campaign, almost immediately you'd start seeing calls coming into those phone numbers, which is astounding because maybe they've never been used. But that's what's happening in B2B and robocalling. It's real, it exists, and it's looking for those connections. And so mixed in with people calling you back are also Google trying to sell search ads and Verizon trying to sign up and computer support folks trying to find new customers. It's all of those B2B calls and robocalls are mixed in. And with the right settings in your systems, you can refine and identify those. Why? Because we don't know them. When they came in, they have no data points in my system. This is why it's very important to take your callback phone numbers and to keep them very separate from your generic inbounds. For your callback phone numbers, the only people who should be calling those numbers are people who you tried to call. Anyone else calling those numbers is immediately suspicious and should be routed one way. Whereas the ones that are the right people calling back can be routed the other way. And so what that does is it makes a big game changer because your agents sitting there in their seats that are getting these inbound callbacks, for every 10,000 that we have that are good, we have 10,000 that are noise. And so what if we can just filter those out and we can say those will never make their way to an agent? Now what you've done is you've made every single inbound callback for those agents orders of magnitude more productive, which means they're going to look forward to them, which means they're going to improve on them and capitalize on them and get excited when they see them, which is going to only help make them even more impactful to your overall successes. So the more you can do on your side to be intelligent and to route and to get these calls to the right people based on everything you know about them and to filter out the noise, could very quickly be your number 2 contributor to successes.
Well, I love that because it really shows the correlation between this inbound and outbound. And by the way, Jason, I love the way Pulse is turning this data that we're dealing with into insights, particularly as we try to view globally, because again, I think a lot of people struggle with, I know my outbound data, I'm not really sure how to use my inbound data and to correlate it in with my outbound. So I think that the Pulse tool makes it particularly powerful and accessible for those folks out there. Let's talk, if you don't mind, a little bit about some common pitfalls and how the audience might avoid or handle them. Alex?
Not routing your inbound return calls by lead source. So just routing them straight into a IVR with "Welcome to Outbound IQ. Please press 1 for the sales team. Please press 2 for customer service." If that is a branded call with a high scoring lead source, route that directly through to my high performing agent without any IVR and get that through to that high performing agent as quickly as you can. The other pitfall would be what I present to that high performing agent. The worst thing that we can do is ill prepare that high performing agent, so that agent opens the call, doesn't know which channel, which way the call is coming, and what lead source and what am I saying on the script. So let's make sure that the agent has a script that pops up, and I know that this is an inbound returning call for that lead source, so I can open it correctly, because this, as Jason showed earlier, should be one of our highest performing lead sources. So ill preparing your agents and then ill preparing the caller and putting them on the wrong channel are just two things that we see all the time.
Helping them understand that this is a high intent call that's coming in and just treat it as such. I get it.
Yeah, on our side, I would say, in terms of the potential pitfalls to look out for that we've seen a lot of, number one, not having your phone numbers that you're using for outbound properly tied to an inbound route. So you're calling out on numbers that, even though people are trying to call you back on, we see it in almost every new customer that we onboard when we analyze their systems, that there's a mismatch between the numbers they're using on outbound and the numbers they're prepared to receive on the inbound. A lot of this is because what people have been doing before they meet us is so crazy in terms of their annies and how they're managing them, and they're swapping numbers and they're buying new ones and they're throwing away old ones, and they're using CSV files and text files to track and manage all this stuff. And sometimes when you're doing that much human activity, things slip through the cracks, and those slipping through the cracks only make things orders of magnitude worse. Not only do you sacrifice the potential successes, but your brand looks terrible, right? Your consumers get angry. They're much more likely to block your numbers or tag your numbers or send them to voicemail. All of those actions contribute back to the carrier networks at large about what is your perceived number hygiene. So, proper dialer maintenance and ANI maintenance is a key. Not skilling agents to take calls. Maybe there's 30 agents placing outbound, but only 2 can receive inbound. So you run out of agents, right? There's nobody there to take it, which can result in endless hold times and queue times, all of which we don't like. Bad IVR design, where somebody has to sit through a 2-minute intro before they can connect to an agent. You're going to lose a big portion of your folks over the course of that, right? And remember that the spam and robocalls, right? So B2B calls, non-relevant calls, noise calls, all of those things are just as dangerous to the productivity of your floor as bad outbound, right? Because as those inbound calls come in, if they are noise, if you think each agent takes one of those calls, each agent goes out of outbound dialing, each agent goes off ready for the moment that they have to handle it and disposition it, all for nothing. If you can filter those out up front, it makes a huge difference in what these inbound callbacks mean to your floor.
You want the agents. You have to publicize, and they have to know that is a high performing lead source. And if they're filtered in with every other call is a deadline or a robo call, the agents, they would pick up on that, and then conversion will drop because they're not treating the lead source at the quality it should be. So you have to show the agents the stats. This is how it's performing. Filter out the robo calls to get the best performance. I think another pitfall I see all the time for big outbound operations is making sure they've got enough outbound lines. I want to dial as hard and as quickly as possible and get through as many dial attempts, and we make that nice and efficient. And then we look at how many inbound lines. I don't care about how many inbound lines. I'm not an inbound outfit. I'm an outbound outfit. Yes, but you've only got 5 inbound lines, and we've got 350 outbound lines. But as we showed earlier on the stats, as much as 30% of your traffic comes back to you. So you're making 10,000 dials an hour a day, 30,000 are coming back, and you've got 5 lines. You're not even, the problem with that is you're not even seeing that in your reporting because you've not got the lines. Make sure you've got enough inbound lines to handle the inbound traffic, but it's not inbound traffic, it's delayed outbound connects.
Yep.
Block calls, right? And that's the thing. If the lines are not there, and that's that single-mindedness on I'm single-minded, single-threaded, focusing on the numbers game of outbound.
Yeah.
Not realizing that it's we can't collect any of the fruit from this outbound effort when we're not prepared for that inbound response.
Yeah, you're out there hunting for the prospect who's knocking on your door, and you're telling whoever's at the door to go away. It's like, come on,
Well, so that's funny. I mean, so we talk a little bit about the pitfalls on it. Well, then let's talk about best practices. How should the people be thinking about and approaching these inbound campaigns?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of, like we were saying a little bit earlier, the ability to be intelligent in your IVR the moment that call arrives is a game changer. It allows you to do so many different things. It allows you to very quickly identify availability to your top agents, which again is a game changer, right? In comes a call. Your inbound callbacks are, in theory, to Alex's point, one of your highest converting lead sources, one of your best lead sources. If you have the ability to get it to an agent, to a top agent, do it. Do it. Right? Why gamble it any more than necessary? And I'm not talking about forcing the issue. I'm not talking about making them wait for a top agent. I'm just saying if one's available, give it there. If not, continue on as per normal. But try, right? Recognizing business hours, being able to handle the call properly during business hours, being able to know when you come in on Monday, being able to know that they called in over the weekend, not having that be a big black hole. For companies that don't work outbound on the weekends, they come in Monday. If there isn't a voicemail in their queue from that caller, they don't even know that they called. It's invisible, but it doesn't have to be. So having some intelligence that even after business hours gives you some kind of alert, some kind of notification, gives your agent some kind of heads up, pushes that person into a different campaign in the dialer for a follow-up Monday morning. I mean, right now in terms of inbound scripting and flow, again, very different things between somebody that you know of that you tried to call a couple of minutes ago and somebody that you tried to call 2 days ago, somebody calling in through a branded line and somebody calling in through an unbranded line, right? All of these things matter, and to have one common process for all of those different types is usually a mistake, right? Alex, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I think this webinar is to get the message to say you are leaving connected calls, customers, revenue on the table. Just you are, unless you have a strategy. The strategy in which you deploy in your business is going to vary. It like Jason said, it depends on what lead source, depends on where they are in the lead funnel in the journey, depends on what number they're calling back. Are they calling branded? Are they calling unbranded? That is for you as the business to A/B test. And am I routing this through to an agent direct, instantly, just with a ring, no IVR, straight through? Yes, absolutely, works beautifully in some use cases. Or is it best to play an IVR so the caller knows that they are calling? They've got through to the company in which was the brand, which was on my mobile, my cell phone when I called back, and I can hear the brand and great, okay, now I'm routed through to an agent. both of these work, but you have to test and you have to trial which ones and use data and inform yourself and double down on the strategies that work. But don't use the one size fits all. Handle your return calls and route them effectively, route out the noise and
Yep.
get them through to your sales agents. And this is a free incentive, right? I've used this with clients. I've used this when I was in the call center and I was a call center manager, and you're looking to, how do I incentivize my top agents? Here you go. Here's some free traffic that converts, and I can route that through to my top agents, and there's a leaderboard. And if your conversion's above X%, guess what? We'll turn on the return calls for you. Fantastic. More revenue for the company, agents happy, free incentive. So yeah.
And here's the other thing when it comes to scripting and strategic use of IVR. I don't mean blind use of IVR where we just stick it there to have some, I mean strategic use of the IVR. So, you know, when we look at inbound callbacks, here's an interesting finding. Almost every inbound callback from an outbound campaign starts with something like this. The agent says, "Thank you for calling mortgage company A." And the person says, "Yes, I received a call from this number." And then there's that awkward silence. Or the person says, "You call my number. What is this in reference to?" Right? Because there's a moment of confusion where the consumer doesn't know why you were calling necessarily. And now your agent is being ambushed by this consumer that they potentially know nothing about. And so we have this initial friction on every one of these inbound calls. It starts to get a little bit weird. So how do we smooth that over? How do we leverage our IVR strategically to fix that, recognizing that it's happening all the time? Well, again, people just like to understand what's happening. So when they call in and you say something like, thank you so much for calling Mortgage A. We are the nation's #1 mortgage lender to the Northeast, if they're calling in from the Northeast, right? Or something along those lines. We have the best rates on 30-year mortgages that we've had in the last 2 years. Please ask your agent when we connect if you qualify for the historically low rates. Now hold on, we're going to connect you to an agent. Now, you've basically told them why you're calling, what the opportunity is, and what to say to the agent when they connect. Ask the person you're going to speak to about the historically low rates. Now, when that call connects, let's just say we went from 80% of the time of having friction to now 50% of the time. The person's saying, "Hey, tell me about these low rates." Is there any better call to get for an agent on your floor? And you've just smoothed that out right at the entry. You've given them the thing to ask about. And the more precise you can be about the customer segmentation, the more precise you can be about what message and what thing you're telling them to do. So if you can walk them right in instead of ambushing and connecting the call, boy, can you make a difference in how those calls play out. And which messages work best, you A/B test them, just like any other thing in your marketing funnel.
And you can even A/B test them. You can even put some qualifying questions in the IVR. You can pre-qualify some of these people so that, to Alex's point about the right resource, you're routing them to the right agent.
Or how about this? Everybody loves the AI. Everybody loves it, right? So on the base level, you've got overflow centers where, you know, if your agents aren't available, what do we do with those inbound callbacks? Do we just drop them on the floor? Do we drop them to a voicemail? Do we give them maybe a queue callback, or do we have an overflow center? But this is also an ideal use case for your AI agents. There's a whole myriad of things to worry about dealing with AI in the outbound side. But when they come back in, hey, that's all you. Right? So you can have an army of AI agents that are fielding these inbound calls. The opportunities here are endless.
Well, and AI is putting us in a good position now because as opposed to select one for this and two for that, it can be in a few words telling us, tell me why you're calling.
IVAs, sure.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we're talking a little bit about technology. Jason, you're a dyed-in-the-wool technologist. Alex, a respected leader in the industry. What about technology? What kind of tools out there that might be out there that our people can leverage?
I think the best place to start, Jason, is what we were talking about earlier. With if I hear another customer, another client playing some 80s text to speech robo voice on any IVR, I'm gonna lose it. We should not be hearing that poor quality. It's just not acceptable. There's the tools at such a low price point now that are available that are at human level voice response. It's difficult for you to tell which is an AI voice, which is a human voice. So yeah, I think we start there.
Yeah, I mean look, and that goes right, and that goes really far too. So for example, and I'm just gonna show some things here, like some of the things that I love to play with right now. We play with 11 Labs all the time. I don't know if you guys are familiar with 11 Labs. There are other competitors out there. I'm not saying 11 Labs is the only one. It's just the one that I've come to learn and play with. Where, I mean, literally you can create IVR voices that sound unbelievably good, that you can control their level of friendliness. You can reproduce these voice tracks in multiple languages to handle any type of inbound caller, right? On the outbound side, you can use them there too. And you have the ability to create for industry. For example, when we're working with our customers and we're helping them build these things, there are voices that resonate better when the consumer is trying to figure out a college decision. There's the right way to communicate with somebody who's in that particular phase of their life. It is different if they're pursuing a career course or if they're pursuing a master's degree. The right way to talk to them changes. What resonates changes. Their age range changes. Their financial income changes. The company's culture changes. Whether it's male or female changes. If they're calling in with a financial aid question, that is a very different conversation and a very different voice. That's the level of detail that you can get to. If it's financial services, if they're calling in from the Northeast US, you can greet them differently than if they're calling in from Texas or from Nebraska or from Montana. If you've called them more than 10 times, you can greet. There's certain things we can assume. If this is a one-time call and then they're calling me back, we have a very straightforward and efficient response. But if there's been 10 dials and they've been in the span of a day or 2 days, hypothetically speaking, there may be some tension at this point. So we're going to greet them a little differently, with a little more consolation. If we're calling on a debt repair, think about the difference. If you think about somebody in a financial hardship that you're outbound calling to repair their debt versus another outbound center who's calling that same prospect to collect a debt at the same time. Well, how do you distinguish between them? Again, this is where we talk about scripting and messaging. When they see these calls, they don't know offhand if that call is the one to try to help them or to try to collect from them. And so when they call back in, maybe the first thing they are greeted with is a friendly, reassuring voice that tells them this is not a collections call. We are calling to help, and kind of move them through there. These are the things you can do on the inbound side that you can't do on the outbound side. And these are all the things that make those inbound callbacks explode for you or just fall flat and be insignificant. If we're not getting down to this level of detail with what we're setting up, then honestly, we're not trying. And I see the amount of effort you guys put in to the outbound side. We are immersed in it with you all day, every day. And I can tell you matter of factly, you're not putting nearly that same amount of effort on the inbound. And I do think if you did, you'd be well rewarded for it, especially as outbound gets harder and harder and harder. And the opportunities to get people on the phone on the outbound side become harder and harder and harder. Taking advantage of those inbound callbacks when they're there is going to be mission critical. It will cease to be optional at a certain point. Right?
And these tools are accessible, right?
100%. I mean, 100% pennies.
Yeah.
Pennies to create these prompts. Right? The another one was the IVAs, as Alex was talking about. That's a whole new technology. Having actual natural language AI answering your calls and helping route your calls. Again, for me, those are a little bit more useful for main lines, a little bit less useful for inbound callbacks. If I had to, you know, if I was going to throw it out there. But you all, again, even from a Gen AI side, you could just, you can have after hours agents that are receiving these inbound calls and handling them and preparing them. You can have multilingual. The Spanish audience in the US is massive. If I can tell you the number of systems that I see where agents are calling outbound and then they encounter a Spanish speaker and they can't do anything. And so they disposition the record out of language barrier and off they go. However, you have them on the phone. You're talking to them. You can transfer them to a Spanish language AI agent who can try to salvage the call. You've already made the connection on the outbound side. Like, again, the multilingual capacity of the AI, the availability of the AI for after hours is a game changer. Right, when used. And again, all these tools are emerging. None of these are replacements for human agents on the outbound side. I know everybody wants them to be, but between the legality and the overall performance and just, you know, look, relationships with human agents is a love-hate kind of thing. I haven't seen the love side of the relationship with the AI agents just yet. I just haven't seen it.
They're not a silver, there's no silver bullet, right? They are useful. We've seen them, we've got them deployed. They are very, very useful at qualification, you know, lead gen qualification. They can qualify, like you said, Joe, those inbound return calls. If you're getting high volumes of them and you know that your human agent's time is best placed speaking to qualified leads and your qualification rate is low, then deploy Gen AI voice bot on your inbound line, and then it will qualify, and then you can monitor the conversion of your inbound calls and your pre-qualification of your AI bot. And we're not going to get into it on this call, but the data that we have on those inbound return calls, we've got location, we've got age, we've got demographic, we've got spend, if you name it, the biography we have on various different leads, we can route that through to different trained Gen AI bots. You know, I'm not here to say a East Coast American person wants to hear an East Coast accent, or a Londoner wants to hear a Southern accent in the UK. But there are trials out there. There are tools that do that. You can test that in your company because you have the data. You can spin up the AI models, and you can test that in an environment that's safe on those return calls.
And Alex, you're often fond of saying that you can just treat it and let the phone ring and let them guess. But if you do it right, to what Jason was talking about before in the IVR, you understand what's their intent, why are they calling, and then what are their preferences? Do they have a language preference? Do they have other preferences that might help you kind of point the call to the right agent? So this is what I mean. I think now with the technology, and again, the accessibility, both from an understanding of cost, but also from an understanding of these things are not as complex as they were even, 3, 4 years ago. Now this is, a modest person with some technology background can work with tools.
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna throw this out there too. Yes, we're on a webinar, but we are easily findable and accessible. Both myself, Alex, Joe, anybody. So, please don't hesitate to ask questions. Even coming out of this, right? A week from now, 2 weeks, whatever. If you're diving into this and you want a sounding board, or you have some additional stuff that you want to, please feel free to reach out. Can't stress that enough.
Mhm. So on that, Jason, let's just we can wrap this up a little bit, but one of the things you wanted to kind of tie things up with was the fact that in many cases, people are missing the signals that are out there. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Again, if there were two things that I want folks to take away from this specifically, if there are two big things, number one is filter out the noise, which I'm going to keep coming back to, and you're going to hear it from me again. What that means is distinguish between people who are calling you back and other. The people who are calling you back are the things that you're looking for. The other is noise. Clean that out. That's number one. All right. Number two, don't ignore your signals. When you're calling somebody and they call you back, and you miss that call or whatever, let's just stop there. When they call you back, notice, do something with that. Don't ignore it. Don't not hear it. Don't pretend it didn't happen, because it did. And it's a good thing. And so when you see that call come in, I don't care if it's overnight, on a weekend, or during the day, whenever it happens, to do something with that. Be smarter as a result of having gotten it. It's the right thing for you. It's the right thing for your agents. It's the right thing for your success. And honestly, it's the right thing for the consumer. Like when you get that call, again, I'm just going to talk about this because it's not in the slides and it's not really part of the technology of inbound callbacks, but conceptually, this is important to communicate to. Compliance. How does this impact compliance? Well, I'm going to tell you that the worst thing you can do to risk compliance, the biggest risk to outbound contact centers compliance, are long periods of calling. If you can't get a hold of people because of something going wrong in your environment, and therefore you're calling them more and longer, that's where the bombs are going to go off. If you can catch them early and speak to them early and get a hold of them early and get the process over with early, the odds of one of those bombs going off shrink by orders of magnitude. The more effective you could be at contacting and dispositioning your records, the less likely you are to stumble into an accidental suit. So anything you can do to speed up contact, whether it be handling the inbound call optimally when it comes. Again, I'm going to share for one more second, and let's just talk about the compliance aspect of this example that we discussed earlier. The record came in on 7/25. We tried to reach them until 7/28. They called me back on 7/28. We missed it. We did nothing with it. Here we are in September, and we're still chasing this record. It should have been over up here.
Customers notice, they understand as well. How you treat them in their lead funnel is how you operate, how you conduct your business. So if you're selling a high ticket item and they call you and you don't call them back and you just ignore that and call them the next day and then the next day, the next day of that, you are showing that person why should that customer trust you with the high ticket item. I'm selling a roof, but I'm not capable of understanding. I mean, if me and Jason opened just a call center, me and Jason, and someone calls in, I'd go, Jason, we've missed that call it straight back. So the two of us would work out quite quickly that that's the right thing to do, is just to call the customer back. And the customer go, oh, hi, yeah, I've called you. Hi, yeah, let's do that. But then the bigger operation, we just ignore the customers. Then we expect them to do business with us when we can't respect or treat how we contact them.
And we act like we're concerned about contacting them, but at the same time, we're not doing anything to let them contact us. Like this is a relationship here.
Mm-hmm. So in that space, Jason, then the adage, if it's ringing, it's important
Yeah,
answer. And then, on the signal side, Alex, to some of the things you said, from the agent's perspective on the signals, letting them know, what type of calls coming in. Is this an outbound that's connecting to me, or is this an inbound? So I have that. What kind of signals to make sure that the agents have ready for them?
Preparing them. Yeah.
Excellent. 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 Well, appreciate that, Bat. Honestly, I mean, we're kind of running short on time here. This has been awesome. It's been insightful. Great discussion, guys. We would like to open up the webinar to some questions from our audience if they're out there. Hila,
Yeah.
if you please. And as a reminder, you can use the Q&A button at the top to submit any questions that you may have. So we'll let that be out there.
Thank you, Joe. So yes, we have received a couple of questions. The first one is, do you recommend signaling to the agent the source of the call, like a callback?
So they should know that this is a callback from an outbound dial. I believe they should know that. As far as actual source, I leave that up to each contact center. There is no right or wrong answer to that. Do they need to know which site they were on? Do they need to know which path they came down? Maybe yes, maybe no. The general rule of thumb is that the more correct information you can provide your agents, the more you can guide them towards what they're supposed to be doing, the better off everybody will be as a result. That's the general rule of thumb. Sometimes there is such a thing as too much information, and you have to look out for that. You don't need anything that's going to confuse them or take them off their game, but you want to arm them with what they need to be correct.
The minimum that you need is what's happening. It's an inbound return call. When was the last call? What was the last disposition? What was the history of that call? So as an agent, I'm prepared to say, hey, Joe, you through to outboundIQ. Joe, I can see we tried to give you a call about your roofing. Let's get on with that. Okay. I need to be as informed as I can for that section, but the rest of it, I agree with Jason. It's company by company, too much information, like lead sources. And if this was a mailer or if the customer clicked something, sometimes agents can cherry pick and sends the wrong message, but that's a whole different webinar.
Also purpose by purpose, right? Company by company, purpose by purpose. So what works right if you're a home improvement company, what works right in your lead follow-up or your appointment setting area may be very different than how you want to handle confirmations or how you want to handle, rehashes or rebooks. Like, how do you take a new lead and present them with the same process on the inbound side or hand them to the same agents as somebody who was a lead, was an appointment, and missed the appointment? Like, no, we do not answer the phone the same way. We do not have the same conversation. The agents who are good at one may not be the same agents who are good at the other. Right? So it's company by company, purpose by purpose, prospect by prospect. And ultimately, that's the moving part, right? And we stress this on the outbound and we stress this on the inbound. There is no all right and all wrong. There's right for that person at that time and wrong for that person at that time. Your job is to figure that out. It is down to the individual level. What was their path? Where are they in the process? And how do I best greet them knowing that?
Sounds good. Thank you. We've got another question, and it's as inbound callbacks become a bigger part of outbound strategy, what new skills will you define top performance in the next 2 to 3 years?
Ask me that one again.
Yeah, I'm not.
So as inbound callbacks become a bigger part of outbound strategy,
Yes.
what new skills will you define top performance agent? I'm sorry, it's top performance agent in the next 2 to 3 years.
I mean, so typically, again, we're focusing on this not from the inbound calls perspective, which is going to be a certain type of customer service kind of order taking kind of person, right? And we're still saying these are inbound callbacks from outbound dials, which the outbound caller is a very different breed. So the outbound, you still need to have the ability to sell. You still need to have the ability to overcome, to engage. You need to have all the things that an outbound agent needs today. But I do think that it's, you know, I had this conversation the other day and somebody mentioned something. I think I just saw an email come through. Somebody was mentioning something about AI. I forget where I was going with this. Somebody was having the conversation about Alex, you go on. I'm going to remember what I was talking about and I'll come back to this.
Yeah. I think no. Let's just go back to this. Let's keep it simple. They're not inbound calls. These are outbound customers, and therefore I
Yes.
need to route these through to my outbound highly skilled agents. That's just as it's for me. It's as simple as we're classifying them wrong. These do not get routed through to your inbound skilled agents. You have your outbound sales team. Therefore, these should be routed through to your outbound sales team. That's it for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have another question, and it's
Okay. Here's where I was going with it. I'm just going to say this. So right now, hiring an outbound agent, and it really doesn't matter what their vertical is, but an outbound agent, a good one, is like a unicorn. Okay, because if you think about it, it doesn't matter if it's home improvement, mortgage, education, whatever. I see the same thing in all the centers that I go to, where an outbound agent has to be universally skillful. They have to be able to have a sales mentality and a sales conversation when it comes to engaging, overcoming objections, establishing a rapport, doing all of that extremely quickly. These are all sales functions. They have to have a customer service function, because unless you're running front or closer, right? If you have these roles combined as an agent, this person has to equally be able to overcome objections and engage and do all those things. But at the same time, they have to be customer servicey enough to get the sale part right, to get the connection part right, to get the relationship part right, to get them into the right product, or to, all of that kind of stuff. So you need both of those sides, which is right, to follow the scripting to a T. So they need both of those. At the same time, they're usually entering information, following a script, navigating a computer, multiple tabs, to find a person and the problem with an outbound agent is that if they're not good at any one of these things, their ability to be a great outbound agent starts to diminish rapidly. They have to be good at all of these things. That is a part of the job. But, there's agent assist products now that are starting to appear, where the AI isn't replacing agents. The AI is helping agents. So, hey, how about this? My job is to go through the script. As I go through the script correctly, and I touch on all my points, the answers that the prospect's giving, their first name, their last name, their email address, their street address, these things are appearing in the web form into my application, into my CRM, because the AI is hearing it and the AI is putting it in. All of a sudden, from having to have 7 things that an outbound agent can do perfectly at the same time, now we've reduced that to 6, which opens up the amount of people who can be successful. If we can leverage these new technologies to reduce that to 5, oh my goodness, I can call back all the people who I had to let go because they couldn't do these things, and I can bring them back because they were great at all the other pieces. This, to me, is the best implementation of AI on the outbound side, is the ability to take what needs to be a 10-pronged unicorn and make it a 5-pronged, twice as likely to find a good candidate.
Awesome.
My best sales agents would never say the terms and conditions word for word. They'd always fail the QA, right?
Always.
And then you end up having to reprimand them. But you know what? Your best sales guys have a prompt, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, great, I've got to say that. Say it. Fantastic. Best use ever.
Yeah, like again, this is the right. My take is that the skills needed from an outbound agent will be all the core skills that were always needed from an outbound agent, except I think that the advancements in technology allows us to slowly and creatively peel pieces of that off and defer more of it into the system where it belongs.
Let it make them better, stronger, faster, more efficient. I get it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Gila, I think we have time for one more question. I think we're going to run out of time after that.
Yeah, that sounds good. So the last question will be, how do you recommend we leave voicemails knowing the customer may call back? Should there be a dedicated line?
Yeah. Do you want me to start?
Okay.
Yeah, and we feel really passionately about this one. No pre-recorded messages. Thank you very much on this one. Yes, I'm open to the AI 11 labs, but we found A/B testing, getting a human from your company to record the message. Do not leave the same voicemail on every attempt. If I see a customer dial a client 10 times and leave the same pre-recorded voicemail all 10 times, that is the wrong thing to do. It needs to be first call attempt, leave a relevant voicemail, whether it's 11 labs or AI, an AI generated, but it's bespoke, it's relevant, or it's a human answer. It should be, in my opinion, it should be automatically dropped by your telephony system, because that way we can guarantee it's not wasting agents' time. We can guarantee that voicemail is the perfect company package for that customer. Then we try again, different lock in a different key. So the next call, we don't leave a voicemail. The call after, we have a slightly different voicemail. Then we don't leave a few voicemails for the next couple of calls, and so forth and so on. So my opinion is we have the voicemail strategy is almost just as important as the outbound strategy, because that's how we're presenting ourselves to the customer.
And the notion of having a separate campaign for it or a separate line for it, I am all ears for that one. I love it. I love it. Why? Because you can track it. Because you know what's working and what isn't. As a matter of fact, if you roll out a new version of your voicemail with a different voice from 11 Labs or a different script, that should have its own number. Because you should know which of your different voice messages is resulting in the best response rate from different types of customers. Like the depth you can go here is endless. But yes, I mean, the ultimate advancement of outbound contact center is getting more and more and more precise. And that means from one big lump thing to a series of well-executed paths. And the moment you've got all well-executed paths, you find the one that's the most saturated and you cut that one in half too. And you gradually just get more and more precise and more intelligent and better with each of these different pieces. And honestly, you're going to look up 2 years from now and you're still going to be trying to figure out how I'm going to be a better company, because this is the hell that we signed, the purgatory that we signed up for in outbound. You don't get away from it no matter what you do. There's always better to be done. But 3 years from now, when we're having these same conversations about what we can be doing better, 50% of our competitors will be gone. And you won't. Right?
Yeah,
because again, onwards and upwards, stay at the edge, keep pushing things forward.
And to Alex's point, if you're going to leave voicemail messages and you have the ability to let somebody on your team leave that message, you can take advantage of the fact of not leaving the same message every time, and in fact making it personal, so that as opposed to just saying this is so and so calling from, this is, hi Gila, this is Joe, I'm calling you, or this message is for Gila. And so that personalization from the human gives that maybe that little edge that's going to prompt somebody to call back to realize it's a real company that's calling.
And there will be in real life certain agents who are much better than others at fielding inbound calls. In many cases, you may not even know why. In many cases, they may not even know why. There's a weird thing in outbound, and I don't know what it is, but there are certain voices and certain people and certain tones and certain agents and certain things that just work better. You can't teach it, you can't replicate it, no matter what you do, but you put that person on the line and 10 times out of 10, they will outperform the others. And they may be horrible at generic outbound. They may be a mid-tier, but on inbound, boy, do they crush it. And again, I don't claim to have the answers always as to why. I scratched my head, stayed up at night, analyzing things till the end of time in our centers. And I still don't understand why certain ones did better, but they do. See it in your stats, notice it, make your dialer smarter to take advantage of it. This is the game.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think we're running a little over on time, so I'm just going to thank everyone for joining us today. For everyone in attendance, you can view and you can share the webinar as it'll be posted on our YouTube channel. You can see the link to our channel at the top right of our homepage on our website. I'd like to thank our expert panelists, Alex and Jason, for your time today. And for everyone else who joined us, we're all here for your success. Thanks and have a great day.
Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate you.
Cheers, guys.